What tips would you give women about managing their plan? When it comes down to I think there's 3 different levels of care coordination and plan management that you can have. Essentially, at the end of the day, it is the individual's choice. It is your choice. Just because you might have a parent there or a carer there doesn't mean that you're not entitled to plan management or care coordination because you've got somebody there. You have a right to ask for any one of those 3, and you're entitled to any one of those 3. In my first very bad planning meeting, that when I requested the planner to stop and no longer write my plan, I'd asked for plan management, so the middle section, and I was told, no, you're an articulate, smart woman, you should be able to manage your plan yourself. And that's just completely wrong. It was my choice. What if I'm sick? What if my pain is really bad and I can't do this? Then it'll have to fall on somebody, and I don't have anybody for that to fall on, and it shouldn't have to fall on anybody.
So my plan is self-managed, which means that I'm in control of the funds that are in my plan. So when I get an invoice, I just let the NDIS know through the portal how much the invoice is, and then the next day they put the amount in my bank account, and then I pay it like a general bill, like any other bill that I would get, like an electricity bill or a phone bill. It's just the same. And yeah, I chose to have a self-managed plan because it gives me a lot more freedom in the services that I can use. Like I can use some service providers that I couldn't use if my plan was agency managed. And before I had NDIS, I had support workers coming from a service provider into my house, but each week they would be a different person and they'd be a stranger, and we wouldn't really have anything in common because they'd usually be a lot older than me. So now that I can use a service provider called Hire Up, and it lets you hire your own support workers. So I've been able to hire a girl around my age who's at university studying physiotherapy, which is what she's helping me with. She's helping me with exercises at my house. So and we have a lot of things in common, and yeah, we're friends now. So it's nice having her come each week.
What tips would you give women about choosing service providers?
Well, my support worker was already registered on Hire Up, but I've heard other people were able to use friends that they already knew, and they would also recruit people through universities, or they would, if they were needing someone to help them with like physio or something, they would put up advertisements at local hospitals as well. So you really do have a lot of freedom in the people that you choose to hire and what skills they have.
You can request different workers, say, I'm not comfortable with that worker, I'd like to try somebody else. You can trial workers until you find one within an agency that you're comfortable with. If the agency won't facilitate that, then they're probably not the agency you want to be with. Because these people are coming into your house, you need to be comfortable with them. And I think the same goes for the agency, for the workers as well. If they're not comfortable in your house, then you're not going to be comfortable with them. So people coming into my personal space, I need to be comfortable with that. The person coming into my personal space also needs to be comfortable. Ask other people what agencies they go with or who do they recommend. You just can't discount the value of word of mouth.
Were there times in the process when you had to be particularly strong in speaking up for yourself?
I'm always one for speaking up for myself, and yeah, there was many times along the way that I had to stop and say, especially with my first NDIA planner, I stopped her before she could even write the plan. She didn't have a full comprehensive understanding of why does somebody in a wheelchair need an OT, and what's the difference between a power chair and a manual chair. And at that point I have no confidence in you writing up a plan that will meet my needs, and just saying to them, you don't need to be aggressive or towards these people in any way. You just need to say, look, you're a lovely person, but I don't have any confidence that you'll be able to write up a plan that meets my needs. And this plan affects me for the next 12 months and ongoing. This plan affects my entire life, and it is really important to me that this has gotten right. I'd rather you go slower and get it right than do it in a rush and make a mistake.
I got this new wheelchair funded through the NDIS, which is really awesome. But when it came back and they'd approved the wheelchair, we'd also asked for a custom-made luggage holder for the back because I travel a lot and need to carry my suitcase. But they had said no to that part because it was like not reasonable and necessary because you didn't need it. But then I was like, well, I actually really do need it, or I can't travel by myself, and I really love travelling. Like, that's one of the main things that I like to do. So it was really lucky that during my initial planning meeting, one of my goals had been around travel and to continue to do that independently. So when we put in the review, we put that it referred back to one of my goals, and then they approved it. So I managed to get the luggage holder, and then I've just returned from travelling around Europe by myself, and like without that luggage holder I wouldn't have been able to go because I wouldn't have had any way to carry my suitcase.
Don't be afraid to speak up. If you're not happy about something, say it. Most of the time, they don't know everything and they get things wrong. And if you feel that something isn't right, or you're uncomfortable with something, or it doesn't feel like it meets the mark, then tell them. Absolutely tell them. What has been the best thing about the NDIS for you? Has it made a difference to your life? The stability, knowing that there are funds there. So going from a system where you had to rely on SWEP and waiting lists, or things like the hack system through the council for your home supports, knowing that if I'm having a bad day, I've got the funds there, the plan is there, I can call my agency and say, I need a few extra hours today. Having that comfort and relief of not worrying about who's going to help me clean the house next week, who's going to help me do grocery shopping, who's going to help me with a shower if I have an accident today. I feel free. I feel like a normal person, that I don't have to worry about those things. Those things are just going to happen now. I don't have to worry about them anymore, and I can just be a mum. And if I need an extra shower, it's a phone call. Hey, can you send somebody around to help me this evening? I need some more support. It is a really, really great feeling. That is a really free feeling, especially for a woman. To have that control back of my life is really good, and that's what the NDIS has the ability to give to all of us.
There's so many good things about it that it's hard to decide, but getting this new wheelchair was pretty life-changing, because before I got this wheelchair I had an electric wheelchair, but it was 8 years old, so it wasn't going as well as it would have if it was new, and I could just go from my house to work and then back home again before it would run out of battery. And so now with this new wheelchair I can go 24 kilometres on a single battery charge, which means like it's just given me so much freedom. And then obviously travelling around and going to Europe, I was able to go so far and see so much more than I would have been able to with my old electric wheelchair, so that's been really big.
The way the service system was in the past was that if you wanted to go out and engage with services, well, you couldn't have a job because you just didn't have time. If you needed to get measured up for new wheelchairs, all sorts of things, they all happen in business hours. Well, we work, we go to uni, we go to school, we're people, we have a life. And these services just didn't fit in, so having somebody else deal with that was a huge relief. And it doesn't matter how educated you are, it doesn't mean that you're not entitled to have that relief, that support.
Being able to hire my own support workers to help me with physio has been really awesome too, because it's just nice having the same person come, and just such a friendly, kind person coming rather than strangers. And I just feel a lot more in control of the supports that I have now than I did. And I guess it's also nice being on the NDIS because I just feel really confident that I'm always going to have the supports that I need now, and it's just really nice to have a system behind me where I always feel supported to get the right things that I need. Yeah, so it's just really comforting. What do you know now about the NDIS that you wish you'd known before your involvement with the NDIS?
I wish I had more knowledge around how the NDIS interacts with the mental health system. Unfortunately, I think that's still a little ambiguous. I wish I had more of an understanding so I knew what to say or what to ask for or how to ask for these supports. The other thing is I wish I had have actually had my OT present with me. You know, as independent and as much of an advocate I am for myself, it really would have been good to have had that extra support.
That the NDIS isn't as scary as people say that it is. I think that the media portrays it in a very negative way because obviously they don't really want just the positive stories, but there are a lot of positive stories out there, including mine, and it's been really life-changing. So going into the NDIS, you shouldn't be afraid. You should be optimistic.